Well, let's move on to something that a lot of the topics we're going to talk about are kind of connected here. You had a piece recently at Think Progress on how Americans are paying way, way too much in rent and how it's most likely going to get worse. Tell us all about it.
It turns out the rent is too damn high. Yeah, this new report came out this week that is, I think, really depressing for anyone who rents. And it turns out that that's an ever-increasing share of Americans. We have the highest share of people renting than any time in history. More than a quarter of American renters are putting half of their income or more toward paying rent, which is a crazy number. The generally accepted rule of thumb by economists and social scientists is that you should be putting no more than 30% of your income towards rent. Otherwise, it's not considered affordable. These are people who are putting at least half of their rent, their income towards rent. And about half of all renters are paying more than that 30% limit anyway. So more and more people literally cannot afford rent, even as more people are renting. And this report is particularly depressing because they ran a bunch of different scenarios trying to predict the future, and basically only one of them reduced this phenomenon, and it was a very slight reduction. So there's basically no scenario that they can see where people will be more and more able to afford rent. And in fact, it looks like more and more people will be joining this group who are paying way too much money in rent. Thanks in large part, increasing rent prices is a big part of it, but also the fact that incomes are stagnant and we're just not getting more money from our work.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know there was a few months ago, there was a report that came out that showed literally in no state can you make the minimum wage and actually afford the medium rent for an okay apartment. It really is just sort of crazy that just like the basic idea of having a roof over your head, and we're not even talking about like a luxury apartment or anything like that, just the basic concept of shelter is something that is falling out of reach for so many people.
Yeah, and particularly people who are working, people who are going to work and putting in a full day's job don't have the guarantee of being able to go home and afford their rent. That is a crazy equation we've set up, and it's true. There's a report that shows that in no state in the country can you make minimum wage and afford a market rate apartment. And this report also points out that while we do think of some cities as particularly costly when it comes to rent, New York, San Francisco, and it's definitely worse there, this phenomenon of people paying way too much in rent, more than they should be able to afford, basically extends across the entire country. So this is not unique to any particular geography. It's just a thing that more and more people are living with.
As you said, in the study, they don't see any real way that this changes other than I think you write it's a radical increase in income or a radical decrease in rent prices. Those are pretty much the only two scenarios where this can improve, because otherwise the market is just going to take it further and further worse, correct?
Right. The one scenario in which we see a slight decline in this problem is where incomes are outpacing, the growth in income outpaces the growth in rent prices, I think by 1% a year, which is not happening. I should be very clear. Rents have been steadily increasing much faster than incomes are increasing. This is a big part of the problem. And so, you have to make this problem go away, you have to fix part of that equation. You either have to make sure that people are getting more money so that they can cover this increasingly expensive cost of rent, or you reduce rent prices. And, part of that is making sure there's enough units available. I mean, the report points out that demand is far outstripping supply when it comes to affordable rent. And even just units that are available. We're not building enough rental stock to fill the needs of people who want to rent it, and somehow address this problem where the units that are available are going for more and more money. I mean, I live in New York City, and I just I look out my window and see this every day, that rents are so incredibly expensive, and it's not like we're making more money. If income went up with rent, okay, I could pay a little bit more, but no one's making extra, and yet we're being asked to pay more and more.
Yeah, it is so kind of crazy how just this kind of general idea of, like, the American dream, you work hard, you can get a house, everyone can have a house and have an okay life. Like, not even a house anymore is out of the reach of people who work. It's just an actual rental of an apartment is actually out of the reach of so many people who work. And there really needs to be a massive shift, as we were talking about, to actually, to get, again, like the basic idea of shelter. I mean, people need a place to live. As much as the markets might want people, I don't know, living in a box or something like that, or I don't know what they actually want, but just the very concept of a roof over people's heads, the fact that is out of reach shows how broken the system really is.
Yeah, and we also have a mass homelessness crisis that's been building since the 80s, and It's getting worse and worse. And we should not wonder why that's true when there are so many people trying to afford rent and failing to be able to afford rent. The outcome of that is homelessness. And we have more and more people who are entering that situation. It's not, I think homelessness to a lot of people feels sort of mysterious and unsolvable. It's not mysterious. It happens because people can't afford a place to live. And more people can't. And we're going to have more and more people who are either in shelters, living in streets, doubled up with family members. That's going to become more and more common unless we do something about it.